I see. Okay, maybe that'll be better. There, now I'm not cut off. Okay, great. Welcome. Find yourself a comfortable seat and maybe wiggle it out or rock from side to side on your sits bones, or maybe rocking forward and back. We're just getting into our body and then also finding where is our center of gravity and how can we make it a nice straight line from the top of the head all the way down into the seat. So it's really common to lean forward or hunch or round the back. And so think about lifting the chest, and maybe you might feel like you're leaning back a bit, but tucking the chin so that the head is over the shoulders, is over the spine, is over the hips. Let your bones do the work so that your muscles don't have to, so that your muscles can just relax. So find this comfortable seat. You can choose whether you want your knees open or whether you're more comfortable with the knees closed. That's fine, as long as the toes are in front of the heels, the knees are over the ankles. And then once you're like, all right, this is good, I feel comfortable, I feel pretty relaxed, I invite you to close your eyes. If that's not in the cards for you today, that's fine. You can simply lower your gaze, find one little point of focus, make your eyes go fuzzy. No big deal. We're just looking for a way to bring ourselves into the body and kind of shutting out the external world. And then we'll come to the breath. You've already done the hardest part, which is showing up. And now we get to rest in this space with our body and just see what it feels like today, because our body is different every day. So if there's places that are tense or tight or uncomfortable, send some extra breaths there, breathing into any place that's tight or constricted and seeing if you can relax it or loosen it or lighten it, even by a little bit, by 1%. And then identify, where is your breath today? Is it up in the chest? Can you move it into your ribs? Feel free to use your hands on your low ribs or on your back ribs and feel the hands expanding and contracting as the ribs fill and empty. Stretching out those intercostal muscles between the ribs, enhancing the breath, lengthening the breath, deepening the breath in whatever way feels good in your body today. And then we'll engage the diaphragm. So letting the belly swell on the inhale as the diaphragm engages and helps bring more air into the lungs. And letting the belly sink on the exhale, maybe even sucking the stomach in a little bit to help push out all of the air on the exhale. Following the breath, using the diaphragm. And then sucking the belly in, pressing all of the air out. We'll carry on like this for a little while. And on your next exhale, Let your breathing return to normal. Scan your body again, see if there's any place that's still tense, still tight, and see if you can adjust a little bit. Maybe dropping the shoulders or tucking the chin slightly. And we'll come into our box breathing, and you can choose how long you want each side of the box to be. Maybe you start just with 3 seconds on the inhale, 3-second hold at the top, 3 seconds on the exhale, and a 3-second hold at the bottom just to get started. And then as you feel ready, maybe you elongate each side of your box. Maybe you increase to 4 seconds. Or 5 seconds. And it's not a competition, so the holds at the top and the bottom of the breath should feel doable, not like you're gasping for air or rushing to exhale. There's no benefit in overstimulating the nervous system because you're stressed out about breathing. So do what feels comfortable in your body, inhaling for a length of time, holding the breath at the top, exhaling for the same length of time, and holding the breath at the bottom. You can choose to count, or you can choose to be more intuitive and say that feels about equal. It doesn't matter, it's whatever you prefer. And we'll stay like this for a few minutes, and then I'll call you back. After your next round of breath, take your time, there's no rush. We'll allow the breath to return to normal, whatever feels good, in and out through the nose where you can. And then we'll tuck the chin to the chest, rounding the spine, blinking open the eyes if they're shut, and coming into your seated cat-cows. So coming into cow pose, looking up towards the ceiling, and then tucking the chin, tucking the tailbone, rounding the spine into cat pose, and then alternating with your breath, inhaling to look up into cow, and exhaling to arch the spine, round the back into cat. These could be fast or slow. They could be big or small. It doesn't have to match what I'm doing. It just needs to feel good in your body and in your spine. We say that you're as young as your spine. The more mobility we have in our spine, the easier it is to do all sorts of things, to walk and move and twist, the less pain we have. And perhaps counterintuitively, the more we use our joints, the more we move our joints, the easier it is to find that mobility. So a little bit many times through the day of stretching, twisting, moving is really great. But obviously, so is coming to a class like this where you're deliberately moving all of the major joints in your body. And then we'll come back to a nice tall seat, and we'll do a few neck and shoulder rolls. We can start with the neck. So you choose which direction you want to go. Take it a little bit more slowly than you can, really feeling into all 360 degrees and noticing any areas that are more or less difficult, that are tight. And maybe you stay there for a second and then carry on. You might hear some pops or clicks, which is fine as long as there's no pain associated with that noise, especially if this is the first time you've really moved your neck all day. And then we'll switch directions. So take your time again, finding the other direction and see if this feels any different. Being really curious without being judgmental about the body you find yourself in today, because we are a different body every day with slightly different abilities, different sensations. Lovely. And then when you finish your next head roll, we'll come back to a nice tall seat and bring some movement into the shoulders. So these could be little tiny shoulder rolls, or you could put the hands on the shoulders and make them a little bit bigger, including the elbows in if you like. Or you could make them really big and make big arm circles. It's your choice. Ask your body what it wants today. There's no benefit in doing more or bigger movement if that doesn't feel good in your body. So really listen to what you need instead of to your ego. It's easy to want to push yourself to the edge, but that's not always what we want. And then we can go the other direction. So again, you can start small and you can feel free to stay here if that's what feels good. And you can also take this really extra slowly, bringing the shoulder blades together and up and forward. And sometimes slow is harder. Sometimes small is actually requires more thought and more discipline than big. But if your body is asking for bigger movements today, feel free to include the elbows. Again, you can hang on to the shoulders, or you can make really big arm circles. It's totally your choice. We don't all have to be doing the same thing, and you don't have to do the same thing every time you come to yoga. We have a wide range of options, which is great, and we just need to pick what feels good to us today. Lovely. And then we'll shake it out, and we'll do a little bit more with the neck first, looking down at the right pocket. I don't have any pockets, but this is where my pocket would be. And feeling the stretch on the opposite side. So for me, that's the left side of the neck over here. And then I'm going to stretch my left hand away to intensify the stretch. Not necessary, but you could try it and see if you like it. And I'm going to very slowly rotate my right ear towards the right shoulder so that I'm looking straight ahead instead of down at my pocket. Still pushing the left hand away if that feels good. Or of course you can just hang on to your chair or have your hands on your thighs, whatever feels best for you today. But if you are looking for more intensity, using the left hand can help. Or you can always lightly rest your right hand on top of your head, not to pull, just to give a tiny bit extra weight to intensify that stretch. And then we'll round the chin to the chest and look at the left pocket, feeling the stretch move to the right side of the neck. And if you like stretching the right hand away, to intensify the stretch. Sitting up nice and tall, tucking the chin, looking down at the left pocket. And then we'll slowly rotate the head so that the left ear is towards the left shoulder, looking straight at the wall in front of you. And you can keep the right arm stretching away if that feels good, or you can hang on to your chair, or you can have your hands on your lap. It's really up to you. It's whatever level of stretch you're looking for, what feels sufficient, what feels good. You don't have to go to your max. About 80% is plenty. We want to make sure that the breathing is not belabored, that you can, that you're comfortable and you feel like you can stay in the pose for a long time. Lovely. And then we'll bring the chin back. And if you like, you can interlace your fingers and again gently rest the palms of the hands on the top of the head, feeling the stretch on the back of the neck, thinking about pressing into the hips and getting tall on the spine. So the chin tucks, but the spine is nice and straight, as opposed to rounding it over. That's not what we're going for. We're going for a tall spine, tucked chin, and you'll feel the stretch down the upper back. And then you're going to let go with the hands. Bring your chin back up to parallel. And we'll do a bit with the wrists. We've already looked at our shoulders and our neck. Moving down the arms to the wrists in one direction and then the other direction. And again, sometimes slower is more impactful, can feel more challenging. So play with the tempo. If you're usually someone that does wrist circles really quickly, see what it feels like to do them more slowly. And then you can also tuck the thumbs in and grab onto the thumbs with the other 4 fingers and see how that also can change the stretch in the wrist. Going one direction and the other direction. And I always go in and out, but you can also go both to the left and both to the right if you like. It doesn't really matter. And then we can shake it out, opening and closing the fingers, putting a little bit of movement in all those many little joints. You can touch each of the finger pads to the thumb if you like to practice a little bit of dexterity. See how quickly you can go back and forth. And then we'll roll it out by interlocking the fingers and just rolling the wrists in one direction and the other direction. This is another area where you might hear some pops and clicks, but as long as there's no pain, that's okay. So don't worry too much unless you're feeling discomfort. And then we shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. We're going to do a few circles with the torso. So you can have your hands on your knees or you can have your hands on your hips. It's totally up to you and what feels more stable. But we're just going to go in one direction, bringing the body forward, coming over to the side, and then leaning back a little bit in the chair. And again, these can be as big or as small as you like. This sometimes can be a challenging balance situation. So sometimes it's more stable if you grab onto your knees, if that's you, if you're feeling a little bit out of balance today. And then we'll switch the other direction, to the side, to the back, to the other side, and to the front, getting into the low back a little bit, and switching the weight from one hip to the next. And then coming into a nice tall seat. We're going to do a little bit of side bending. So again, get yourself super comfortable, thinking about your head over your shoulders, over your spine, over your hips. And then bring the arms up overhead. Bend the body to the right. You can also grab onto opposite wrists if you like, or grab onto opposite elbows if you like. Or if you need the stability, you can hang on to the chair with the right side and just bring the left arm over. All kinds of variations. You figure out what works best for you in your body today, thinking about lengthening the left side all the way from your hip up into your armpit, really getting tall on that side. Instead of thinking about crunching over on the right, think about getting long and tall on the left. Lovely. And then similarly to our next stretch, we're going to rotate to look down at the floor, feeling that stretch change a little bit in the back, reaching for the opposite wall, and then rotating back to look forward, and then coming back up to a nice seat, and then wiggle it out if you need to before we switch to the other side. So again, your choice whether the knees are together or whether they're apart. I find myself feeling more stable with my knees apart, driving the weight into the feet, head over the spine, over the hips, bringing the arms up overhead, getting really tall, and then bending the body to the left. And again, you can grab for opposite wrists. You can use your left hand to grab for the right wrist, or you can grab for opposite elbows if that feels good to you today. Or you can use the left hand on the chair and reach with the right hand. Again, where our goal is length on the right side. So feeling that stretch all the way from the hips up into the armpit, really stretching over to the left, and then rotating the torso to look down, stretching away, and then coming back, looking forward, and then coming back through center and letting the arms come down by your side. Lovely. We're going to do another type of side bending, this time kind of in using the legs out to the side. So I'm going to bring my right leg out to the right and straighten it out as much as possible. So my left leg is still bent, and you might already feel the stretch in the right, which is fine. It doesn't, again, doesn't have to look perfect. We're just experimenting in the body. So left leg is at regular 90 degrees, right leg's out to the side, and then you decide where you think the right hand should go. Maybe you're just going to tip a tiny bit and keep the hand on the upper thigh, or maybe you're feeling, actually that side bend felt pretty good, and you can reach for your shin. I feel this stretch a lot in my the low back and my left side. If you want, you can bring the left hand up. You can look at your left thumb, reaching up, 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 reaching the right hand down, pressing into the outside edge of the right foot. And don't forget to breathe. It's really easy to overextend in this posture and get into a place where it's tough to breathe. And again, if it's tough to breathe, you just come out a little bit until it's easy to breathe. We always want the breathing to be first and the asana or the pose to be second. One more breath here. And then on your next exhale, tip back up towards center. And then we'll bring the right foot back. See if you can do it heel toe your foot without touching the leg. But of course, if that's not going to happen for you today, you just use the hands. That's fine. So coming back to a nice tall seat, we'll do that same stretch on the other side. So this time bringing the left leg out and straightening it any amount, keeping the right leg bent at a 90 degrees, toes in front of heels, knees over ankles, and then sitting up nice and tall and deciding how far you want to tip. Is it going to be hand to the thigh, which is great? Is it going to be hand to the shin, which is also great? Think about what your body feels like, and it might be different on this side than the other side. And then if you like, bringing the right arm up overhead and looking towards the thumb and the fingertips. Again, focusing on the breath, because this can be intense. And if you are too crunched over or stretching, using a lot of effort, the breathing can go. And what we really want is nice, slow, even breaths in and out, feeling like we could stay in the pose for a long time. And then on your next exhale, we'll come out of it, tipping back, bringing the hands back, and then see if you can heel toe your feet back together. But of course, if that's not happening, you just lift the leg and help plant it back down where you want it to be. Lovely. All right. And next, we're going to do a little bit with our ankles and feet. You can cross at the ankle if you like. You can also cross at the knee, which, if that's accessible, I like that, because then you can use your hand to help articulate the ankle. So we're going to start with some slow ankle circles, and maybe you see what your ankle wants to do on its own. But I find that I can get a bigger range of motion when I use my opposite hand to help it along. So you just decide what feels best for you, what you want to try. Because again, you can always keep the ankle down low and twist in one direction and then the opposite direction. And then we'd do a little bit of pointing and flexing. And again, it doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Even a tiny bit of movement or the idea of movement is still great. You're still building those neural pathways. You're still connecting your brain to your foot. So don't get too frustrated if your pointing and flexing isn't exactly what you want. And you can always use the hand again to help get that stretch. When I use the hand, my whole leg lights up and I can really feel the stretch in ways that I can't when I'm just pointing my toes without the extra help. And then with the flex, feeling it in the Achilles in ways you probably can't feel it when you're simply flexing without the extra help of the hand. You can also do this on the floor by tucking the toes back to help point extra, because now I'm using the ground to help me point, and flipping the toes over to flex the feet. You can do this on the ground if getting the foot to the knee is not happening for you today. There's definitely always ways that you can do this in a modified, everything's modifiable. Find what works for you. And then if you are able to cross at the knee, we're going to go into a figure 4, which is a nice hip opener. So again, sitting up nice and tall. You can cross at the ankle if you can't cross at the knee. Again, sitting up nice and tall, and then hinging forward any amount until you can feel that right hip opening. And then you stay. And again, the taller the spine, the more you're protecting the back. It's probably possible for everyone to look how flexible I am. I can really hunch over. But what we're really looking for is a flat back, a straight back, and then hinging from the hips. And once you're here for a couple breaths, you might find, this actually is fine now. I feel more open. I have more space. Great. Maybe you hinge forward another inch, and then you stay there until you feel like your hips have opened again. And if that's your limit, that's your limit. And then you just stay. There's no room for the ego. It doesn't matter how far you go. It doesn't matter what you look like. It matters, okay, is my spine straight? Am I hinging from the hips? Am I pressing my sits bones back? Am I bringing my head forward? Those are the things that matter. And do I feel the stretch? Does it feel good? Does my body feel okay right now? And then we'll come back up slowly to center. And we'll do a little twist. We haven't done any twisting today. We're going to twist over to the right. And you can have your left hand on the outer right thigh if that helps for leverage. And you can bring your right hand either to the chair, to the back of the chair or tuck behind you to the opposite hip. Maybe reaching for the opposite thigh. That could be a one-day thing or a next lifetime thing. With every inhale, getting nice and tall. And with every exhale, twist, twist, twist over the left shoulder. Inhale to lengthen, exhale to twist. Inhale to get tall, exhale, see something new. And then we'll slowly untwist, coming back through center. Maybe marching out the feet if that feels good. Maybe extending one leg and then the other leg if that feels good. Either straight out or it could be on the floor. Doesn't really matter. All right, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So again, crossing at the ankle or at the knee. And we'll start just with some ankle circles in one direction. You might do this without the hand at first, just to see where you're at today, and the other direction. And then if you want to use the hand to get a bigger range of motion, you can. And again, sometimes slow is better. Sometimes slow is more challenging. Sometimes slow allows you to really feel into the joints. So experiment with the pace, especially if you're someone who is usually going a million miles an hour, which I know I am very guilty of. And then we'll do the same thing we did on the other side. So pointing and flexing the foot, and maybe experiment a little bit first with what can your foot do on its own today. Not judging, just observing. And then either using the hands to help point, and maybe you feel that stretch up the front of the foot, maybe even into the outer calf on the left side. And flexing the foot, flexing the toes, feeling the stretch down the Achilles in the back of the heel. And again, if you want to do this on the floor, you can just tuck the foot to the side with the toes down and with the toes tucked to flex and point the toes on the ground. So you can definitely do this in multiple positions, and one's not necessarily better than the other. You just find what feels doable, what feels good today. And then we'll come into our hip openers. So again, crossing at the ankle or crossing at the knee. And then really getting tall first, protecting the low back, and then hinging forward any amount. You might feel the outer thigh on the left side light up, or the left hip. And then you just stay there and breathe into it a little bit. We don't want to bypass the stretch. Sometimes there's a tendency like, if I get to here, then it feels better or whatever. But you've missed the part that is actually benefiting your flexibility, which is hitting every little part that feels tight or stiff or where you feel the stretch. And then we want to work through each little bit. So just coming forward a tiny amount until we feel that stretch again, and then working through that area of tightness. Again, keeping the back nice and tall, hinging from the hips, protecting the spine, protecting the muscles of the low back. And then we'll slowly come back up to center, and then this time we'll twist over to the left. So looking over the left shoulder, maybe putting the right hand on the outside of the left thigh, thinking about getting tall on the inhale and twisting over the left shoulder on the exhale. You can use the left hand on the chair or tuck the left hand behind you. Inhale to get tall. Exhale to twist. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale to see something new over the left shoulder. And then we'll slowly untwist, coming back through to center, bringing both feet flat to the ground, and then marching or straightening one leg and then the other leg, or simply moving the toes forward and back on the floor. Whatever feels like a good counter movement. Nice. And then today for our Vinyasa practice, we're going to use the warrior poses. So first we'll demo what warrior 1 and warrior 2 look like, and then we'll bring them into our Vinyasa, one movement, one breath. So for warrior 1, this can look a few different ways. If your chair is such that you can bring one leg to the back and one leg to the front, you can extend the left, bend the left, extend the right, and have the arms coming up overhead. If your chair if this is not comfortable for you, you can have the right leg more out to the front. So that, again, we're having one leg that's straight, similar to when we were doing the side bending, and one leg that's bent. You can also try this standing if you want. You can hold on to something, hold on to the back of the chair, having one front leg bent and the back leg straight and just lifting up one arm. That's also a great option. Or you could do this in front of the wall and hang on to the wall if that if you need it for balance. Okay, so here's several options for warrior 1. So we got warrior 1 like this, or warrior 1 like this. And if the hands get tired, think about bringing them to the shoulders and then back up, or bringing them to the hips for a little rest and then back up, pressing into both feet, pressing into your hips if the left hip is on the chair. And then we'll switch to the other side. So coming back through center, this time we'll do the right leg will be forward. So the right leg will be bent at, if you're sitting, at your normal, about 90-degree angle. And then you can choose with your left if you want to have it directly over the chair, or you need it to be a little bit more forward. Thinking about bringing the hips facing over the right leg, and then bringing the arms up overhead. And if you need a break, bringing the arms to the shoulders or bringing the arms to the hips. And again, you can also do this standing using the wall, or in my case, the desk or the chair or whatever it is, and just bringing one arm up. It's kind of up to you, whatever feels good in your body or whatever you feel balanced for. Lovely. And from here, we're going to open into warrior 2, keeping the feet pretty much where they are, but twisting the body so that the right arm stretches towards the right, the left arm stretches towards the left, and then we'll look over the right fingertips. Breathing, as always, in and out through the nose where possible, pressing into the outer pinky toe side of the left toes, bringing the right knee out. Sometimes the right knee wants to cave in, really thinking about externally rotating the thigh so that the knee stays over the ankle. And then we'll come back into our warrior 1. And then we'll come back to center, bringing the legs in, Okay. We're going to do that 1 to 2 to 1 on the left side. So coming back into our warrior 1, left foot forward, right foot straight. Warrior 1, looking up, arms overhead. And then warrior 2, arms, left arm stretching to the left, right arm stretching to the right, and then bringing the gaze over the left fingertips. And then back into warrior 1. Hands to heart center and back to our comfortable Tadasana tall mountain pose. Okay. So that's already a lot. You're doing great. Bear with me. We're going to incorporate this into a Vinyasa sequence. So try it, see what works for you. Take it at your own pace. Here we go. Inhaling, your arms up overhead. Exhaling to bow and fold over the legs any amount. And again, if this is your very first forward fold of the day, be careful of your low back. Let your head drop. Be gentle with yourself. Shake your head yes, yes, yes. And no, no, no. And then coming into a flat back. Stretching the head towards the opposite wall. And then bowing and folding and seeing if there's any more space in the low back. Engaging the abdominal muscles. Inhale, sweeping the arms up overhead. And exhale, hands to heart center. Bring the right leg out to the right. Bring the arms out, and we're going to do our side bend over to the right side. And then coming back up, bringing the left foot over to the left into our warrior 1 position. Stay here for a breath. And then exhale into warrior 2, stretching the arms in opposite directions, looking over the left fingertips. And then we'll reverse the warrior, tipping back towards the right leg, bringing the left arm up towards the ceiling, feeling the stretch down the left side of the body. And then back into warrior 2, rotating back into warrior 1, hands to heart center, and then bringing the legs back into nice, tall mountain pose. And breathing here, relax. The heart might be beating, so nice, slow, even breaths to help return yourself to a nice, calm state. And we'll do the same sequence on the other side. So starting out with extending the left leg so that we can tip over to do the side bending on that side, feeling the stretch down the right side. And then coming back through to center and opening up the right leg so that we can come into a warrior 1 pose over here. So stretching through the left, bringing the arms up overhead, breathing here, and then opening into our warrior 2 pose, looking over the right fingertips, stretching the left back, the right forward. And then if you like, reversing the warrior, dropping the left hand down, looking up towards the right hand. Breathing here. And then back into warrior 2. Breathing here. Twisting the torso into warrior 1. Hands to heart center. Rotate the torso. And slowly bringing the legs back into a nice tall Tadasana. Again, breathing here. And we'll end with our half sun A, inhaling the arms up, exhaling to bow and fold, inhaling to a flat back, exhaling to fold, inhale, engage the air, the abs, sweep the arms up or walk the arms up the legs, and exhale, hands to heart center. Take a moment here, and then if there's any other pose that you want to do, that your body's asking for, that we didn't have the opportunity to practice today, now is the perfect time to do that. Or if there's a pose that you really enjoyed today and you want to do more of, this is the time to do that as well. So maybe you want to get into more shoulders or more twisting. Maybe we didn't do enough arms for you today and you want to do some arm stretching. Or maybe your body's like, no, I'm ready for Savasana. I'm ready to relax. In which case, great. Find yourself a super comfortable relaxation position. That could be seated. You might add a pillow or something behind your low back for comfort. Maybe you scoot back so that you can rest your back on the back of the chair. Maybe you want to lie down. That's great. Maybe you want to put on an extra layer, whatever it is you need to do to feel really cozy and really relaxed. Do that. And then we'll come back to the breath. So feel free to close your eyes if that feels good, or again, lowering the gaze is totally fine. It's not required to close your eyes. It's just sometimes easier to feel what's going on inside our bodies when we don't have the stimulus of the outside world. In and out, nice and slowly. In through the nose and a nice long, slow exhale. In through the nose and a nice, long, slow exhale. And one more of those. In through the nose and a nice, long, slow exhale. And then let your breathing return to normal. Maybe you put a hand on the belly to feel the belly rise and fall. Feeling the inhales and the exhales. Thinking through all of the postures you did today, all of the breath work, all of the stretching, and giving some gratitude for each part of your body that we worked today. Gratitude first for your mind, for your discipline, for showing up, for being here, for doing the hardest part of the work, which is setting aside time for yourself. And then gratitude for your head and neck that allows you to look different directions, up and down, left and right. Gratitude for your shoulders, your elbows, and your wrists, for your arms that allow you to carry things, hold things, open doors. Gratitude for your torso, for your ribs, for your lungs, for your heart that moves the oxygenated blood all through your body so that your cells can be nourished, for all of your internal organs, your stomach, your liver, your spleen, the kidneys, all of it, that you don't even have to think about them. They just work 24 hours a day to help keep all of your body functions ticking over. Gratitude for your hips that allow you to sit, to stand, to move your legs. Gratitude for your knees and your ankles, for your toes and your feet, for your whole body from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes. In yoga, we're always looking to observe and notice without judgment. So observe and notice if there are any areas that are still a little bit tight or still a little bit uncomfortable, and send a bit of extra love, care, breath into those areas. See if you can get even more relaxed, even more comfortable. And then we'll come back one more time to our box breathing. You choose the pace. Again, maybe you start with about 3 seconds and build your way up to 5 or 6 seconds, but longer isn't necessarily better. You've got to find what feels good. Inhaling, holding the breath at the top, exhaling, and holding the breath at the bottom. Carrying on with whatever length of breath feels good to you. Making the holds, the inhales, and the exhales about the same length. Bringing calm, bringing steadiness, bringing evenness. Filling up the belly, the lungs, the chest. And exhaling fully. Maybe sucking the stomach in a little bit to really push out all the air. Experimenting with what feels good to you today. And then at the end of your next exhale, take your time. There's plenty of time to finish out the sequence. We'll come back into whatever normal breathing pattern your body wants to breathe. Let your breath breathe you, not holding on to anything, not controlling the breath. The breath is really interesting. We have the ability to control it, but we also have the ability to let it just be autonomic, to let it just breathe itself. And then we'll slowly wake ourselves up by bringing a tiny bit of movement into the fingertips, into the toes, into the hands and feet, maybe opening and closing the fingers, maybe pointing and flexing the feet, or windshield wipering. And then stretching out one leg and the other. Maybe stretching the arms out to the side or overhead. Maybe you give a big yawn. Maybe you roll the shoulders or give a little neck roll. And then tuck the chin to the chest. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.